Thanks for joining me on Life and Surround. I would like to take a few minutes to try to convince you to search out this DVD audio. If you love Megadeth or the P-Cells album, or at least respect the P-Cells material, and you can play 5.1, either DTS or MLP lossless if you have a DVD audio player, this is the best sounding that I have ever heard this album. Now, I listened to this 5.1 DVD audio a number of years ago and wasn't that impressed, if memory serves. It could be that dialing in my system a little better has caused this disc to perform to a degree that I am now pretty thrilled with it. So let's talk about sound. So the reason I listened to the 5.1 of P-Cells last night for the first time in a long time is that I listened to the stereo version of the album for my Albums of the Week segment. I listened to a 2021 reissue of the LP and then also the stereo layer from the DVD audio. I was not impressed with either. The stereo layer of the DVD audio sounds superior to the LP in terms of clarity and a little bit better punch, but it's so badly compressed that I actually had to turn it down about 9 dB compared to the LP. And really, the sonics suffer as a result to some extent. So, I decided, hey, listen, I'm on a quest to try to hear the best, and I have the 5.1 version. I didn't remember being all that impressed, but I may as well go throw it on and see what I think. Now, I've done some upgrading and some tweaks to my main 5.1 system over the years, and so perhaps this DVD audio is performing better now. I can tell you that I was impressed enough with the 5.1 mix of P-Cells to want to bring it to your attention. Now, let's talk about the sound of the 5.1. Bottom line, this album simply wasn't recorded very well, and we are always going to be limited by that recording session. That said, the 5.1 mix is going to be your best chance to sonically enjoy this record. You have tons of punch. You have an easily discernible kick drum that can clear phlegm from your chest, huge sounding drums, lots of breathing room for rhythm and lead guitars, very articulate bass playing, and the vocals are sounding their best as well. In terms of the mix style, the drums here are massive. They favor the fronts, but they make their way out into the room, including some really impressive tom rolls. Bass is front and center where it ought to be, along with the lead vocal, plus one of Dave's rhythm guitars. Additional guitars are hard pan to the surround left and right, where you're also going to hear some gang vocals and other sound effects. This is a 1986 thrash album, so it definitely wasn't made with a lot of complex layers that are going to lend themselves to a super bonkers surround mix. But in my opinion, this way of approaching Megadeth in 5.1 is very satisfying. I'm hearing all kinds of things from this 5.1 mix that I simply did not know were on the album. Much more intricate and articulate guitar, bass, and drum work. So sadly, while this isn't ever going to be a sonic gem, this record has the clarity and simply the balls that it really deserves in this DVD audio or DTS 5.1 version. Now, musically, for the uninitiated, P-Cells is ultra classic Megadeth. The title track is catchy as all get out. Some of us may be familiar that the bass line was used for the MTV News bumper music, and that iconic video that hit MTV really early on seems just as relevant today as it ever was. It is included as an extra on this disc, as well as the video for Devil's Island. And let's go ahead and talk about a few more of the extra features. It is very, very special that some alternate mixes of Devil's Island are included on this disc. We could maybe call them D-mixes, because you get these versions where you have just drums and bass, another version with drums and bass and guitars added. And then a version with just Chris's guitars, a version with just Dave's guitars, and then the full mix for reference once again. And in my opinion, a very, very special feature is the interview with three guys from the group. Dave, and Chris let us know what they think about hearing their album in 5.1 surround. I'm going to play a bit of that interview for you now.
Fortunately, what the DTS mix did for P-Cells is it actually really gave it some depth.
Just hearing the difference where the solos come, it just stands out, especially with the drums. The drums are so much bigger.
There's a lot of things that I didn't hear even making the record. You know, there's a lot of small things on the bass I'm hearing, a lot of drum parts that I've never heard until now.
With this mix, what I heard, a couple of things in particular, the beginning of the song Good Morning has this incredible Chris Poland's guitar solos are just standing right out.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised I could play that good.
It's as if Megadeth was playing in a square room with Dave's amp over there, Chris's amp here, the bass here, and the drums over there, and you're sitting right in the floor, right in the middle.
It's hard to get it all into two speakers and make it translate the same way you would even if you were standing in a room hearing a band. You can have that now with 5.1. It's like you're in the room with the band.
My feeling about the release of the 5.1 mix is that it's about time. I think that this record has been pretty much, it's not that it's been overlooked, because it certainly had its time, but for it to be reintroduced to a new generation of fans that are into new metal and stuff like that, that are into bands that have been influenced by us, you know, this is a great way for them to see what it was all about, what inspired all of these new metal bands and a lot of the popular bands that are out right now that are influenced by people who were influenced by us, you know, 2 generations removed. What I think about the remix is that it's definitely cleared up a couple of things, and there's a couple of things that Mac fixed that, given the circumstances at the time, there just was no money to fix them.
With the way these guys were gushing about 5.1 back in the early 2000s, it shouldn't come as a surprise that Megadeth has gone on to mix Rust in Peace and Countdown to Extinction in Atmos. We can only hope that those mixes, and maybe even more surround and immersive mixes of Megadeth albums, could make it to physical release someday, such as on a Blu-ray. So this DVD audio is pretty nifty. You can listen in stereo, DTS 5.1, or lossless 5.1, depending on your setup, depending on your preference. And whatever your soundtrack choice, you can follow the lyrics on screen, which I find to be very helpful. I have had a lot of these lyrics very, very wrong in my head over the years, and it's really cool to get in touch better with the actual content. I see one sitting on Discogs right now for around $21 before shipping and tax. So this one isn't quite at outrageous out-of-print prices at the moment. I would snatch up a copy if you can find it. Discogs, Amazon, eBay, wherever you can. If you love Megadeth, if you love P-Cells, and you can play 5.1, or you know someone who can, or you're interested enough to finally set up a system, I absolutely recommend it. I am just beyond thrilled that I have rediscovered P-Cells in lossless 5.1. I have listened to this album several times over the last year or so, in the car on CD, at home on LP, and then even the stereo layer from the DVD audio, and being pretty disappointed with just not being able to make out enough, you know, punchy rhythm. Mostly, you know, hearing mostly Dave's guitars, really, that I'm just over the moon that a decent sounding version of this record exists. It's an important record for me. It's just as relevant today as it ever has been, with everything going on in this world. And besides that, I live near San Francisco. This really is, you know, music from my homeland, and I'm glad to see that it received this level of respect. I would love to see it reissued on Blu-ray or even receive a fresh Atmos mix, along with any other classic Megadeth as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If so, please don't forget to give a like, subscribe if you haven't already, leave comments, let everyone know what you think about Megadeth, Peace Sells, 5.1 audio, this album in 5.1, this album in stereo, or whatever else you would like to add to the conversation. Look forward to interacting with you all. Peace Sells in 5.1 is for sure solidly back in rotation here. And whether it's Peace Sells in surround or whatever music is touching you at the moment, I wish you all wonderful connection to great music, and may each and every one of you live life in surround.